The final round of the Red Funnel Cowes Keelboat Championship was run by the Royal Corinthian Yacht Club this weekend. Racing on Saturday was in a light east-northeasterly, with the first race being sailed in the last of the ebb. The 6 metres were first away with a 5-boat fleet, although Wildcat 2 was late for the start. By the windward mark it was Ante Razmilovic's Berta which led from Paul Smith's Valhalla, with Bluebird in third and Tempest fourth. Berta held her lead to the finish, but although Valhalla finished second, she was scored DNF because she hadn't gone through the line at the end of the first round of a short windward lured course. So Arvia Wilmot's Tempest took second, having pulled ahead of Bluebird, which took third. The Darings were next away with an 11-boat fleet. The committee boat end was favoured, and Dynamite had the best start at that end, while Darling was well over in the middle of the line. Daring 1 was also judged to be over. Dynamite was the first to tack to port, while most of the fleet held on starboard. Left proved to be the correct choice, and those, like Defiant, who picked that option, enjoyed better pressure and a left-hand shift. At the first mark it was Defiant leading, ahead of Darling, with Defender third. Finesse was next, with Audax in fifth. At the spreader mark, Defiant chose a jibe set, as did Audax, while the other leaders held out to the right. Going left on the run seemed to pay, as did heading right on the next beat. Audax made the best of the tactical decisions on both legs to move from fifth into the lead. Audax led to the finish, ahead of Defiant, with Finesse taking third. Only 3 dragons raced on Saturday, and at the first windward mark of the first race, Owen and Josie Pay's Njord had a big lead from Supremacy, with Kedron trailing in third. The distances between the boats varied, but the places didn't change, and Njord led across the line, only to hear a deafening silence. Supremacy crossed in second and received a gun, but Kedron was also greeted by silence. It turned out that both Kedron and Njord were scored DNF for failing to cross the finish line at the end of the first lap. After a short wait for the line to be adjusted, the second race got underway with the wind starting to ease and the tide starting to flood. At the 6-metre start, Valhalla and Berta were both over early and had to return, while the other 3 boats headed off up a beat. Valhalla and Berta had both headed hard right after their restarts, and the right-hand side proved to be the correct one. On the run, Bluebird had a good lead, but behind her, Valhalla had already pulled up to second, while Berta was overhauling Tempest. The wind was dropping now, and the run against the tide was slow, despite the size of the Six's spinnakers. By the leeward mark for the final time, Valhalla had pulled alongside Bluebird and rounded on the inside. Although Valhalla made a bad rounding with her jib only half up, Bluebird did no better, so couldn't capitalise on the leader's error to retake the lead. Valhalla held on to the finish, with Bluebird second and Berta taking third. The second start of the day for the Darings saw Audax and Daring Do pushing too early and being caught OCS. At the end of the first beat and run, Darling had a good lead from a series leader Defender, with Destroyer holding third. Defender made a mess of its spinnaker drop, and Destroyer was able to overtake to leeward as they left the mark. Having been scored DNF in the first race, Darling wasn't about to let this one go, and she held her comfortable lead down the run, while behind her a gaggle of boats fought over the minor places. The chasing group included Audax, which had recovered well from her premature start. At the finish, Darling led across the line, with Daring 1 taking second, ahead of Defiant. Finesse and Audax crossed the line overlapped, with Finesse just taking 4th place. The start of the Dragon's second race saw the Sixes running through the line at the time of the start, but Supremacy got the best start at the committee boat end, with Niord in the middle of the line and Kedron to leeward. At their first leeward mark, Supremacy led by 2 lengths from Niord, with Kedron trailing in third. With the wind easing all the time, their final run against a building tide was a slow and nail-biting affair. The lead seemed to change a couple of times, but at the mark it was Supremacy which led by 2 lengths from Niord, with Kedron another 3 lengths back. Once round the mark, the tide swept them to the finish, with the order unchanged. The promise of a great end to the championship on Sunday was dashed when the morning saw a flat calm on the Solent. The race committee postponed for an hour or so in the hope of wind, but it was not to be, and by lunchtime racing was abandoned. So, after a series which saw 18 of the scheduled 24 races completed, the winner of the Daring series was Defender, with Audax second and Decoy third. It's likely that Niord has won the Dragon series, but as the class hasn't confirmed the number of discards, we can't give you the final results. Details of all the class winners will be announced at the championship prize giving, which will be held at the Royal Corinthian Yacht Club on Saturday, 20th of October. ASTO, the Association of Sea Training Organisations, held their annual Small Ships Solent race from Cowes on Saturday. The 30-boat fleet started on the squadron line, with Eve Branson joining Jeff Hughes on the platform to fire the starting gun to send the yachts on their way. The fleet was the most diverse you're ever likely to see in a yacht race. After all, how often do you see a mini brig on a racecourse? The TS Bob Allen was one yacht that was going to have a long race, but they could at least claim to have the most sails of any boat in the fleet, all 8 of them. Making a great start was IWAC's entry Paddywhack, which sailed into a commanding lead straight from a gun. A 20-mile course was set to the west, with the favourable tide and in a light east-northeasterly breeze. Paddywhack had a good lead at the first mark of East Leap, where she jibed to head across the tide to Elephant on the island shore. The course was to take the fleet west to Bertham off Lymington, in a series of zigzags across the tide between the island and the North Shore. From Bertham they would turn east for a beat along the mainland shore to Peters and May near Bewley Entrance, before heading to the finish back off Cowes. ASTO is the umbrella association that supports British offshore sail training schemes. It also provides grants to help its member organisations ensure that sail training is available to all young and disabled people throughout the UK. This unique race is open to both ASTO members and non-members with yachts over 24 foot. At least half of all of those on board must be between 12 and 25 years old. This year, the event has increased in size, with over 400 young people racing on 30 boats. The fleet included modern cruiser racers, cruising ketches, old trading vessels, historic gaffers, and famous old ladies of the sea. Jolly Breeze won the first Fastnet race, and she can still show many modern boats a clean pair of heels. She was among the front of the fleet as they headed west, and was being sailed superbly by her young crew. The famous world girdler Gypsy Moth 4 was also in the fleet, although she wasn't showing such a turn of speed and was later to retire after a collision caused some mizzen damage. Even though she had to head home early, her young crew were still enjoying themselves. Gypsy Moth wasn't the only casualty of a collision, despite the light winds and easy conditions. The Ocean Youth Trust's ketch John Lang had a coming together with Lily of Hamble, which tore away some of her stanchions. Both boats continued the race, but calls of protest from Lily of Hamble were heard over the VHF. We'd like to be able to tell you who won, but neither ASTO or the Royal London Yacht Club were able to give us results by our press deadline, more than 24 hours after the end of the race.